How's it going, everybody? So I just saw the latest Godzilla movie, Shin Godzilla, and wow, that was horrible. So I'm about to give a review of this movie, and there will be spoilers, just to let you know now. So if you care about spoilers and Shin Godzilla, you definitely don't want to watch this. So turn it off now because I'm about to lay it out. So, the Shin Godzilla movie, I think a lot of us are really hopeful that maybe, just maybe, Toho was actually going to put together a Godzilla movie that had the ability to strike true terror in the viewing audience. I think the previews, so the trailers that were released, kind of gave a sense that it was going to be like this like live action cam thing where you're tracking people trying to escape Godzilla and it'd be like really scary and really suspenseful. And yeah, that didn't happen. It happened for all of just a little bit of the movie, and then all of a sudden there's this weird looking snaky thing that has these big bulging eyes, and it's going to become a meme, I'm pretty sure, after this video gets released. But of this crazy snake like Godzilla, and it just goes all downhill from there. They botch Godzilla's origins by making Godzilla this kind of creature that evolves and has gills and mutates and stuff. It's just wacky. It really does not vibe with the rest of the Godzilla history. Then with all that, the dialogue with the background characters is that they often have with the government officials and stuff like that. It gets a little bit hokey at times, especially when they're trying to speak uh, English to Americans and stuff like that. It just gets a little bit too hokey, and they go from this like, oh, you think it's gonna be a really serious tone to this kind of like jokey back and forth. And it's okay to be funny and stuff like that, but it takes away from what I think everybody thought was going to happen, which is to have a really awesome, action-packed Godzilla movie with lots of suspense and lots of fear in the fact that Godzilla is coming. And here it just seemed like it was just one big joke after the other. And what they did to Godzilla as far as the powers go, it's just unreal. Again, spoiler alert here, so pause if you're worried, but they give Godzilla this ability to shoot all these crazy lasers out of spines and through the tail. And then by the end of the movie, when they stop Godzilla, there's like these weird creatures that are coming out of the tail thing. And it is so bizarre. It is just so out of touch with all of the history of Godzilla. And of course, there's been some weird stuff out there with Godzilla. Godzilla versus the smog monster, flying and weird whatever stuff. But when you're talking about the history of Godzilla and the kind of the tropes of Godzilla, they just someone just was like not thinking when they put this together. They must have just been like, okay, yeah, let's just cut this footage and not check it again and see how that actually looks on film because it was not up to what I think most people were expecting. And while it was an improvement in the cinematic quality as far as the footage goes and as far as the looks of the computer graphics compared to the past few films, I mean, it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to hold on its own. They should have gone with the more serious tone. They should have taken cues from the legendary pictures Godzilla 2014 that was actually a step in the right direction. They should have gone with the serious feel and done something more Cloverfield style and done a movie that really struck fear into people watching it. Like, oh my gosh, like really living the view of the people who were escaping. And yes, I understand that in the traditional Godzilla movie, you have the center around the creature, and you have some of the background, evacuation and government workers doing this or that. But it just didn't stick too much to that enough to be truly frightful, and the laughing moments took away from the epicness of it. And then I think worst of all, with the ending was that normally if Godzilla is stopped, Godzilla ends up coming back, for or getting resuscitated, and then going off into some scenery as there's some commentary as Godzilla goes into the water. Godzilla dies in the original because of the oxygen eating bomb, and here where they tried to use a type of coagulant with Godzilla. Uh, it just doesn't have the epicness that I think the Oxygen Destroyer did in '54 to merit a seeming death of Godzilla. Now, it is questionable because of the way it was cut at the end, but it just doesn't fit. Godzilla has to either have something really epic. If Godzilla is gonna die, it has to be something majorly epic with major political themes, or I guess you could say battle themes, stuff like that. There has to be something that there's a high level of tension, or it has to be the usual Godzilla's going off into the ocean, and there's some uh, topic of discussion about the nature of humanity and existence, or Godzilla's effect on humanity and existence being a type of analogy for nuclear proliferation and weapons, or sometimes pollution issues. It just didn't have that. It really didn't stick anywhere, and the character development, a lot of that was lost because in the beginning they had this really funny um, motif of government workers being like, "Wow, this is so inefficient because there's so many layers of government and there's so much red tape, and it was really hard for them to do anything in order to get things done to stop Godzilla." And then by the end of it, the main character is just like, "Oh well, I'm happy to join with government and become president one day." It just didn't fit. Like none of it really made sense. There was no consistency, and I think Toho also dropped the ball on the political themes when they had an opportunity for Japanese nationalism to arise because they wanted to stop Godzilla. Because yet another spoiler alert, in case you've had enough. But spoiler alert: uh, the UN and the United States want to drop a nuke on Tokyo to take out Godzilla, and so they're like, oh, and then that as in the Japanese officials are like, oh well, should we really do this? Do we really want a third bomb? Talk about World War II on Japan, and they're supposed to be torn about it, but this was a chance for them to really say, no, we're going to fight you, UN, we're going to fight you, United States, we're going to stand up and not allow you to nuke us, and we're going to go ahead and take care of this on our own. They could have done that, and I think that would have been a better storyline that would have modernized that Godzilla political significance from going from just the harm of the nuclear bombs from World War II with the original Godzilla and the psychological effects to saying, hey, in modern day Japan, that post war depression they had, they're fighting back against it. That would have been really cool. But I don't know what they were thinking or doing or drinking, but they dropped the ball in this Godzilla movie in every single way. No fan service whatsoever. They could have done fan service in a lot of ways, and they really just botched it all across the board. They had an opportunity to do really high level cinema, and they jumbled it. They had an opportunity to do character development that was consistent. They botched it. They had an opportunity for putting together, a political theme that would be contemporary Japan, bucking the international control over the Japanese. They dropped the ball. And then with Godzilla, I mean, they just totally destroyed and ripped up the canon, totally destroyed the powers. They could have just finally made a Godzilla that looked really good with the computer graphics and the cinematography and just done it right. And instead, they just go crazy with it. So I really hope that this Godzilla movie just goes to the trash bin. I hate to say that, but this does not deserve to be any part of canon. This does not deserve to be continued. They need to learn from this movie and say, okay, let's go back to doing fan service and do a high quality Godzilla film, and not just say, oh, well, we'll just let Legendary do that in America with the next Godzilla movie. Toho should be picking it up and making a really good quality Japanese Godzilla. So I was disappointed. It's a fun movie in some ways, but I would say even as a movie, there's no way around it. It's not good enough, especially considering what they've learned over these past, I would say, 20 years of Godzilla movie making on the American side and the Japan side, being able to see what works as far as fans go, doing fan service, and what works as far as cinematics go in terms of really good Hollywood style. And I'm not saying to get rid of the Godzilla style of focusing, on Godzilla and people being inside of Godzilla's world, but rather, just how they have it shot and how they have the quality graphics, the continuity done at a Hollywood level. So, if you have any thoughts about this too, agree, disagree, just let me know in the comments. I know there are fewer people who are gonna see this movie because it was a limited release, and I had to drive half an hour just to go see it because that was the closest theater that was showing it. But I'm curious to hear what other Godzilla fans, true fans, think about this. So I'll talk to y'all later.